What's up, guys? Tech Yeti here, and we're going to be diving into something a little more technical this time. We're going to be diving into something in Microsoft Office 365 suite, and we're going to be using Flow. I've been doing a lot of consulting work using Flow to automate tasks in SharePoint libraries, like workflows. So when something gets uploaded into a document library using like a form or from an InfoPath form, it goes through a set of approvals based on logic, and then that person has to approve it. And there's a lot going into it because right now they're going to be getting rid of SharePoint Designer in the coming future. So we had to come up with a way to not use SharePoint Designer. So we ended up deciding to use Flow, and Flow has so many different capabilities, but we're basically using it for SharePoint workflows. Just to give you a little use case scenario right now, on our HR site, we have a form in an InfoPath form, and when they hire someone, there's an onboard form, and that onboard form gets filled out by a manager. Now that manager will fill out the form with all the new hires information and then click submit. Now when that form gets submitted to the library, it goes through the set of flows. Now that flow then will read who the manager is of that employee, and it will start an approval for that manager. That manager gets an email and a task to approve this form with a link to the form. Once they read it, they have to sign it. They sign it with a digital button, and they click sign, and their username and a timestamp hits it. And that username is based off of the username they are logged into when they are viewing that form, so only they have that username and no one else can take that, and no one can forge their signature. Now if they don't sign it but they click approve, they get another email saying you forgot to sign this form, please sign the form. And that happens every 4 hours. They get reminded if they forget that. Now if they do sign it and approve it, and then it goes right on to the HR manager, and the same process continues all the way down from HR to accounting to IT. That is a lot of logic. And let me just show you what it looks like. I'm halfway done with it right now, but you can see I've been doing a lot of testing and canceling with it to get the logic done. But we'll hit edit, and we're going to look, and we're going to see when an item is created, we're going to get file metadata on that. Now this allows us to change the metadata inside of that file in the SharePoint library. See, we're looking at the HR site, and we're going to use the file identifier for that. So it's going to use the identifier for when the item is created. We're going to initialize a variable called the manager approval signature text box. This is just to verify whether or not someone signed the form and their signature is in that text box in the form. Then we're going to start the approval. The approval is going to go down. It's assigned to the manager's email, which is in the form. If you click here, we'll see that get file metadata. You see all of that stuff here. This is what is in the columns, and what is the data behind the actual form. But then when you go to when an item is created, you can see every single thing that you can use or take off of the form. And basically, you just decide in InfoPath what you want to publish to the site or not. And of course, we want to do the manager email. And we got the requester, which is the created by email, so whoever fills out that form. And here's the details and the item link. And we get the condition. Response is equal to approve. If they approve it, then we go down into this one. If they don't, they basically there's an update, and we change the column to rejected, so we can then sort by new hires who have been rejected. And then we send an email to the person who created the form and basically says you have been rejected for your new hire. So we're going to work our way down to yes, and we're going to see update item 9. And once again, we see that we want to make sure that we update this now, because we want to use the most up-to-date version of the form that is in that library. So of course there's going to be signatures that are going to be added to this down through the approval stage. So we want to update that so we can then set the variable if the manager actually signed the form. And then we'll get another condition in here. If the manager approval text contains the word corporation, I'm going to blank out what the domain name is or the company. But if the manager approval contains the word corporation, then yes, it just goes down on to the next step. If it doesn't, then this is where we got into a little bit of logic. We will be checking again if the manager text box contains the word corporation. Now you can just do @ symbol. No one can write in the text box. Only if the only way that you can get something in there is if you actually click the button. So you could do the @ symbol for their email address, whatever the format of what goes into that box is. You need to just check it. And then it's going to send an email saying you forgot to sign the form. Please sign the form. And then you'll see a delay for 4 hours. And again, we want to check and update that file again. And as well as that update, we're going to change the approval stage in that column, so it's going to say manager pending signature. Just so if someone from HR or the manager or someone looks at it, they can see that it was approved, but it's currently awaiting pending signature. And then we're going to set the variable. We do an update, and then we set a variable to see if they sign the form within the last 4 hours. And then this sets that variable. So if there is something in this text box now, we assign it to this. And then if it contains corporation, we're good to go. And then it'll move on down. If it doesn't, it does the process again until the person signs the actual form. All right, so we're going to move on down, and we'll see, we're going to update the item, and we'll update the item in the library to the approval stage onto human resources, and then it goes on down to the HR approval. Now, that's just something. That's something that's on the really tip of the iceberg on what you can actually do with Flow. There is so much automation that you can do with this. And it is very, very cool, and it's taken me a long time, and there's really not a lot of actual documentation out there on how to do this, so I've taught myself everything. And, I want to get into a little, just a little bit of what we can actually do with SharePoint and Flow, so I'm going to show you guys what we can do.